This week on the Chef's Cut, we are pulling back the curtain on how chefs really feel about Valentine's Day in restaurants. Every year, we called it the Valentine's Day Massacre. The real reason that your favorite restaurant has a special Valentine's Day menu.
The expectation from most guests is like, it's a special day, I need a special menu.
And we reflect on how to keep the flame burning with those very special work relationships.
It's like seeing your ex with like, you know, their new person and you're like, oh, really?
This week, we are really going to focus on Valentine's Day because we get a lot of questions as chefs and as people who work in the hospitality industry. A lot of people want to know, they actually care, what it's like on the other side on Valentine's Day in restaurants. My perspective is that a lot of people put pressure on celebrating it. You know, girlfriends, boyfriends, new relationships, marriages. Some people put a lot of pressure on celebrating Valentine's Day. A lot of people do that by going somewhere to eat. That equals busy restaurants and restaurant reservations. So, you know, let's get into the weeds a little bit on Valentine's Day. And, you know, I like my new segments and names. So In the Weeds is where we're going to go into depth on Valentine's Day.
All right, I'm with it. I will walk into the weeds with you. You're a little bit shorter, so I'll hold your hand and pull you up so you can see.
Thank you. Like that time in Colorado where I couldn't see over the blinds when we got to Aspen for our finale.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was hilarious.
You were like, oh my God,
I was like, look at that view. You're like, I can't see shit.
And then you pulled a chair so I could stand up on the chair. I was like, oh wow, that's actually gorgeous.
Always a gentleman.
So, okay, Joe, what is Valentine's Day to you? Do you love it or do you hate it?
I don't think it's like I love it or hate it. It's not like as polarizing to me as that. It's one of those days where it's like, I think Valentine's Day in general is insane. But you know what I mean? I think like from a restaurant perspective, it's like it does put a lot of pressure on us, right? Because there's kind of two camps. There's the people who think like, oh, I don't want to do anything for Valentine's Day. I just want to be able to go have a normal dinner. But most of the people out there, I've getting calls, you know, a couple of weeks ago already, like a month out, where people are like, well, what's your Valentine's Day menu? What are you doing special? I need something special. It's got to be special. So it's like having 4 restaurants now. It's like I have 3 where it's like we have to run special prefix menus. We need to be able to do it for 2 days. You got to do it the Friday and Saturday. But it's like you got to do it for 2 days. You need to have, you know, a special menu, do all these things because it's like, I think sometimes you get the outside perspective of people are like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. It's a hot night. So like restaurants just want to like jack everything up. And I'm sure there's some of that too. But it's like, but the expectation from most guests is like, it's a special day. I need a special menu. I'm trying to do something special and I need you to help facilitate that for me. Right. And so it's like, we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to curate a special experience for them. Now, having 4 restaurants, it's like I have one where in like Bartuto where it's like, you know, casual, more like neighborhood hangout. Right. So like that one, it's like, no, we're not doing anything. But I think it's nice that it's like now it's like I have that option too of like, hey, if you just want to go out to dinner, come to dinner. You know, but like most of the people, they want that special occasion, you know, like it's steakhouse, it's crazy. But the other thing I think people don't realize, like the weirdest thing about Valentine's Day is like a normal service, you get a mix of tables, right? You have 2 tops, you have 4 tops, 3s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s. Valentine's Day, you look at those spreads and it's like, if you're doing 300 people, you're doing 150 tables. And it's like, you have to bring an extra 2 tops and you have to like, look at all this stuff and all your big tables. You know, we have a couple 6 tops at Rosemary where it's like borderline probably won't use those.
Yeah.
For 2 days. Cause no, we're not going to have a 6 top for 2 days.
Yeah.
You're only going to have like
eating in parties of 2.
Twos. That's not how you run a normal service.
Yeah.
So it's just like makes it like a weird, different pressure on it. So it's like a whole unique, weird kind of beast to it where it's like, and people put a lot of pressure on it and they want it to like really be, you know, like, oh my God, I want this to be the most, you know, romantic night of my life. And it's like, hey, we're going to make it super delicious. We're going to make it super delicious and super nice, but I can't make you better at conversation. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you didn't have any game before you showed up here, like I'm not doing a 1-hour crash course on like how to talk to somebody before you go.
Right.
Maybe I should. Maybe that should be an offered, you know, part of it.
Hey, maybe you have a conversation starter card on the table so people can keep their conversation lively and going during their romantic dinner.
Hey, it's not a bad idea.
See, okay, when I was in restaurants, It was the thing that I hated about Valentine's Day every year, without a doubt, is it comes smack in the middle of the slow season. So after the holidays, after New Year's, restaurants usually go through a lull where it's slow because it's also really cold outside if you live in the north. So it's super cold. Not a lot of people are going out. You're staffing less people. Your team is not at the same rhythm for doing a super busy night. And then you just get hit in the face with Valentine's Day. And every year we called it the Valentine's Day Massacre. Every restaurant I worked at, we always call it, guys, ready for the Valentine's Day Massacre? Let's go. Because you're gonna get your butt kicked all night. You're not at that level of doing like, turning and burning and just going through service so fast. And then you're just all of a sudden going from cooking for 100 people on Tuesday to cooking for 350 on Wednesday because it's Valentine's Day.
And especially it's like, if you have a really cold February, you could go from cooking for 50 people on Tuesday.
Right.
Or especially in fine dining, you could go from 20 to 200.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you want to go for a jog? It's like, yeah, okay. And then it's like, all right, now we're going to sprint for 6 hours until we puke. And it's like, what do you mean?
Yes. You're like, it's a gut punch. It's just a huge
That's
gut
always
punch.
like the blessing of the curse of it. It's like, you're like this. It's been super cold in Chicago. So it's like everybody's like, oh, yeah, can't wait for Valentine's Day because it's great business, right? So it's like something that, business-wise you look forward to.
Okay, Joe, listeners want to know, and this is something that we have fielded through Instagram. Are restaurants taking advantage of people on Valentine's Day with the expensive Valentine's Day prefix or the expensive Valentine's tasting menu?
I mean, it depends on the place. Is my perspective. It's like, I think it's like, if you do it nice, like it's really nice. You know what I mean? Like we do really thoughtful menus and we try to make it like, oh, what would be a good menu for two people to have together where it's not like so crazy filling. So if you have, romantic plans afterwards, you can, attend to those plans.
Right.
But it's like, but I think, some places it's like you look at it and you're like, that's crazy. But, they do a lot of weird stuff where it's like, but I think it's like one of those things. It's like, you have to have that offering because there's such a massive call for it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, as a restaurant, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you do it, people are going to say that. They're like, oh, you're just trying to take advantage of it. If you don't do it, people are going to not come because they're like, well, I want a special experience.
Exactly.
Because, me and 𝗵𝗶𝗶 are coming in and, 𝗵𝗶𝗶 only wants the finest. And so it's like, it's one of those like tightropes to walk. So that's why it's like for me this year, having the 4 restaurants, it's like, it's nice to have the one to be like, hey, if you're not about all that, I got you. Come over here. I think one of the things I really like about doing like special prefix menus is like for us, it's like, me, like I'm a super hard copy person. Like I write in notebooks. I love hard copy cookbooks. The idea of like you get a physical menu that's just for that night. Like I do really like that. Like I know it's like cheesy, but it's like I love the idea of like having like a physical tactile menu like I could take with me if I want.
And they don't need it for tomorrow because it's not Valentine's Day anymore.
But like this is the menu we had that night. Like, you know what I mean? I have some saved old menus from like travels and like dinners Hill and I have had together. I've had with friends over the years. Like I think like having that, you know what I mean, thing when our memories is so tied to food. Like I said, like I think, you know what I mean, like the cynical part of it, you can look at it whatever you want. But I think that's Valentine's Day in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the prefix menus from an operational perspective. I like them because you know that 85 to 90% of the people dining at a restaurant that night are going to order that Valentine's special menu. So it kind of eases up the fact that your staff is not up to the flow of being so busy because you're picking up multiple of the same dish back to back.
Right.
So, after the first 5, you're more efficient, you're better at it. So I like it from that perspective because it helps the restaurant kind of streamline service, which means the customer is getting better food instead of having to cook like 22 different dishes on one station. You're able to focus on really making this one dish over and over and making it better and better each time for the guests. So I'm for it. Okay,
so let me ask you a question then. Now, you're not working a Valentine's Day service. So Valentine's Day night, you going out?
Hell no. Absolutely not.
Well, are
Valentine's
you cooking
Day.
at home? Are you going to make, you know what I mean? A nice little special prefix
So
a la
that
Adrienne?
depends. If it's Friday, I have to do dinner for my private client. If it's Saturday, I'm off. And I would happily cook something. I've actually done tasting menus for 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗳 at home, starting off with like a razor clam ceviche, ending on like a
Hold on,
lobster
hold on,
tail with red
hold on.
wine.
So this is my question about that of doing a tasting menu at home. So you plating a course, sitting down, eating a course, and then getting up, going to do
Uh-huh.
the next course.
But everything is like par cooked and prepped out. Or depending on what the next course is, I can pop the vegetables in the oven to warm while we're eating the previous course. Like I
I
can,
just I just like the idea of like you're in the middle of a dinner conversation and you're just like, just give me 1 sec, and then you like go to the bed.
right. Well, we have our,
Lady,
our kitchen counters. So like Steven
right,
and
right.
I'll turn on the sexy lights and sit on the other side. And then I'll just pop around the counter, pull the stuff out of the oven, plate it, go sit back down.
Also
He'll
in my
pour the
head, like when you
wine.
go to the other side of the counter, you like go into like chef mode, and you're like, so how
Right.
is
The
everything this
hair
evening? Like
immediately
you know
gets
what I
pulled
mean?
up.
Like are you having a good time? Yeah, like your date seems really nice. Like
Hell yeah. As soon as I step into the kitchen, like I take my hair clip, my hair goes up, it's like all different chef mode.
mark the ticket.
I have my dry erase, first course out, second course out. I would have to say, Joe, that at this point in both of our careers, we are past situationships with food and the food industry. We are in long-term relationships. Probably one of the longest standing relationships I've ever had in my life has been with food in the food industry.
Yeah, me and the food industry have 4 kids together.
You do. You just gave birth to the fourth one recently.
Hmm?
It's like, being in food is like saying you're married to your job, but kind of on steroids because it goes beyond being just a job. It is a lifestyle. It's so much more than that.
Right, and you're married to a crazy person that everybody's like, "Why are you married to this person?" And you're like, "I just love them. I just love them so much. You don't see what I see in them." And they're like, "No, I don't. They
It's
seem
like an abusive
insane."
relationship.
They're like, "They seem completely insane, and like this is horrible and terrible. Like all you do is like complain about this." And you're like, "I know, but I love them."
So, Joe, I want to ask you a few questions about your relationship with food and the food industry. So, let's look at it in terms of the stages of a relationship. What would you say was your first date?
I mean, really, like, you know, I started working at this when I was 16, and so it was like, bar and grill, like working for my buddy's dad. And that was like, my first introduction to it. You know what I mean? That first time meeting them where you're like, oh, why do I feel this way? It feels different. And it did. And I feel like because it's like, especially like in high school, you're looking for a sense of belonging somewhere, right? And I think that's where, in my life where it's like you've got in trouble or you either get in trouble or you find something good. Because you find either a sense of belonging with a bunch of people you shouldn't be with, but also like a restaurant, it felt like the first place where I was like, oh, this makes sense. I feel like I belong. You know what I mean? There's
Mm,
there's a sense of belonging to working in a restaurant where it's like, and I think it's the same thing people get from being on like a team that they really like. And I think you hear people talk about it when they stop playing sports or stop doing stuff of like they miss being on a team. They miss being part of that.
right.
And I think it's something you've talked about, since not working in restaurant kitchens anymore, where it's like you miss that sense of team, right? You miss that
Right.
camaraderie. And I think like that sense of team and camaraderie of a restaurant was what I fell in love with right away.
So that's your first date, the moment you fell in love. What was the honeymoon phase?
I mean, I think the honeymoon phase was that phase, was, 16 to 19 working in restaurants. I felt like I lived a different life than everyone I knew. You know what I mean? I worked late. I got to be out at hours that, 16 and 17-year-olds didn't get to be out at. You know what I mean? I worked at a bar that closed at 2 a.m. on Saturday nights. I was driving home at 3 in the morning, like, and it's like most of my friends, like their curfew was 4 hours before that. But that era of it, I felt like the coolest. I liked when people I knew came into the restaurants. I liked that I knew the people who were regulars. I liked that I knew everybody on the staff and we were friends. And I was friends with all these older people who were like cool. Like that part of it, it was so intoxicating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was part of a grown up world where everywhere else I was treated like, you know, I'm a kid in high school, right? But
Right,
like when I
right.
was there, I was just part of the team. And
Mm-hmm.
I got to live in a world where it's like people talk to me like an adult. I was in adult conversations way beyond my depth for the time, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like that's, you know, where it really was for me. And then I think even, you know, when you first get into cooking, those line cook years, like I don't know if you could call them the honeymoon years. I don't know how you look back at them. It's like I kind of look back at them like they're almost like college for us, right? Where you're like those line cook years where you're like in college and it was crazy and you're partying and like it was a shit show and like it wasn't great, but it was awesome.
So it was really awesome. I don't know if I look at my line cook days as a honeymoon phase for sure. I mean, I would consider my first date with the food industry being behind the scenes when my mom worked in restaurants, doing my homework in the non smoking section, mopping bathrooms, bussing tables for as unglamorous as it was. That was my first date. That's where I was getting to know restaurants. And did I think I would see them again? Wasn't so sure at the time. But then I did start to fall in love with it because of those memories growing up. To me, that was like where you feel accepted. You know, I was sick and I was a little bit of an outsider when I was younger at school. Definitely caught some heat from some bullies. And being in restaurants was where I felt safe. That's where I felt like people loved me. Nobody was judging. Nobody was looking at me crazy for being the sick kid. You know, it was just like they loved me. They protected me. Like that felt like home. So that was kind of how I fell in love with them. And that's why I came back as I got older. But it was really kind of like my first line cook job in Orlando. I had applied for prep cook position and somebody had no call, no showed. So I show up to be a prep cook for that shift, and they're like, scratch that, you're on the line. I was like, oh dear God. It went south in so many ways. And the sous chef had to come bail me out on my station. I got on the station with no training, no concept
Mm-hmm.
of what the dishes on the station were. I mean, it was kind of their fault for doing that, but they just needed a body on the
Yeah.
station. But it was a moment that I really fell in love with it because it's so tactile. It's like, here's a problem, you solve it, you go on to the next. And you're doing that every 30 seconds. And I was like, oh my God, this is like intoxicating.
It's
I am
instant
loving this.
gratification over
Right.
and over and over again. And it's that feeling of, you know, I think when people talk about like, I don't fucking golf, but people who golf are like, oh, you hit that one good shot and that's what keeps you going. And I think those early
Uh,
cooking days, it's like you get that one nice knife cut. You plate the one plate that like looks perfect and you're like, you're chasing that feeling.
yep. Nailed it. Got to do that again. I feel like my honeymoon phase was when I worked in pastry at a resort on the Gulf of Mexico. That for me, because it was so OCD. If you mess something up, it's because you deviated from the recipes. You didn't check the humidity monitor on the wall and adjust as the recipe book said. So I'm getting constant praise, right? Because I know how to follow a recipe.
Everything you just described is my literal fucking nightmare. Like if
It
somebody
was
was like,
amazing.
what's the worst job you can imagine? To be like pastry production in the Gulf of Mexico.
It was amazing. And it was like an OCD wet dream in so many ways, but I was getting constant validation which I hadn't gotten at these restaurants before. And so this was where I was like, "Oh my god, maybe I'm kind of good at this. I kind of like this." This was like pure honeymoon phase. Then I went back to the savory side and got my ass kicked again, but that honeymoon phase, boy, it was beautiful. Joe, I really want to ask about work relationships. You know, Valentine's Day is about relationships, it's about love. And there are a lot of relationships that we have with the people around us at work. They're kind of like cousins, siblings, parents. It's a great dynamic of people that you can be very close to, love and hate at the same time. But it's weird because you're just coworkers, but it feels so personal and so close.
Well, and like having a chef you work for a long time is a relationship in a way, any way, shape, or form. And it's like, you know, sometimes it's not a good one, but it still is one. You know, it's always interesting to me, and I don't, you know what your experience has been with it, but it's like different chefs, like when you have, you know what I mean? It's one thing about the relationship, but when you have the breakup, right? When you got to tell them
Ooh.
it's over. And,
Yeah.
you know, like as a chef, I've been fortunate enough where it's like I've not been on the receiving end of, you know what I mean, somebody breaking up with me, of, you know, getting fired or being told to, you know, being dismissed from a job.
Okay, yeah.
I've always been the one who left. And, you know, it's a weird thing. And I think of like the old school mentality of like, you know what I mean, in the 90s and stuff, the stories you'd hear from chefs, it's like once they left somewhere, they were, you know, I mean, that chef never spoke to you again.
Yeah.
Like you were just like, oh yeah, you don't exist. Like, because it was still, I think of like that stiff competition of like, well, if you're leaving, if you're not with us, you're against us.
I always wondered where that came from. I'm like, this person, you know, gave their blood, sweat, and tears for you. And then unless they get a really big name, that other chef would act like they don't exist.
Yeah, because you're going to work for their competition. You're going to work for the enemy.
Or like, going to become the competition.
Right. And there's parts of it where it's like, you kind of get, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you know, I'd be lying if I said I never felt a way about where somebody was going to work based on who they were going to work for. Mm-hmm. Where, you know what I mean? It's like seeing your ex with like, you know, their new person and you're like, oh, really? Like him? Her?
That's who you left me for? Oh, okay.
Right. Like, you think they're better than me? You know, and it's like weird. And it's like, you know, you see chefs, they get like weird and jealous about it. Like, oh, you know, they make you laugh. Like, I made you laugh. You know, it's like, how's their comida? Is their comida good?
Right, right.
Like, do you guys do fun stuff?
Do they have good family meal for you, or do they just feed you?
Yeah.
Leftovers.
Like, what kind of activities do you guys do? Do you hang out? You know, like, and it's, you know, it's like, there's a weirdness to it because it is a relationship. And we get, you know, I think like chefs get possessive of their people. You know what I mean? Of like, you're like, I did put, you know, you put blood, sweat, and tears into them, but they also put it into you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's a transition you understand more as you get into being a sous chef and a chef. It's like you put everything into your people. And then like one day they're like, oh, okay, now I'm going to go. It's a weird thing.
It is. And it's really about how you handle it. Do you communicate properly? You know, the chef still might be hurt if they didn't see it coming. If they thought that you were the kind of, you know, chef, sous chef who would be with them for the long haul, then they still get upset. But I do think it's really important to handle it well and communicate. And I've been guilty of that. I've left a job and didn't communicate openly with my chef about why, or, you know, always gave good notice. It's not like I quit a day out. You know, I'd give a month notice or 3 months, but I definitely left places where I could have communicated better with the chef and, you know, jeopardized a relationship that was very important to me. And it took me years to mend that relationship, but it was an important one. It was important to me. That chef had poured a lot into me. So I put in the work. You know, it's like a relationship. You got to put in the work.
You know what I mean? And I think like,
to get that back.
You know, I'm at a point now where it's like, you know, I try to tell people when I bring them on, it's like when you get to the point where you're ready to leave, like come talk to me and I will try to get you where you want to go. Like if you are open and honest with me about it, then like I will do everything in my power to try to get you wherever you want to go. And if you're not, if you just leave, whatever, it's like, that's fine. That's fine too. You owe me nothing. Mm-hmm. Like the agreement was you'd work here for as long as you decide to work here. Right. And that while you worked here, you did the job up to the standard and you were a good member of the team. That's the deal. You owe me nothing else. Mm-hmm. And that's fair. So if you want to leave, you don't want to tell me where you're going, you don't want to tell me what you're doing, that's fine. But it's just like, for me, I'm always just like, why? Why wouldn't you let me help you?
Right. I can,
you know
what
I mean?
Resource.
Like I'm offering to, you know, and maybe you don't trust me in it, but it's like, you know what I mean? I have a track record of helping people do it. But it's like, if you want to get somewhere, the more you let me know, the more I can help you. Mm-hmm.
Another one that I find really interesting is our restaurant relationships with the people we're shoulder to shoulder with. So before you're a chef, not necessarily the chef you work for or people leaving you as a chef, but the colleagues, the coworkers, your line mates, your friends, like those are people who, I mean, we trauma bond. I'm there for their successes. We're there for each other's failures. Like we go through such an emotional experience together. And then if somebody leaves the restaurant, it's like, okay, my best friend doesn't exist anymore. You know, it's like, it's weird.
Yeah, I always say you get to take like one or two with you from every restaurant. Like, you know, it's like, I think when you first start, you know, I mean, at least in my first kitchen job of like, where you're like, oh, I'm going to be friends with all these people forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're all going to be chefs. We're all going to be running restaurants. We're all so good. and I'm going to know all of them. And, events for the rest of my life are going to be me and all these people who I came up with here. And there's some, right? You know what I mean? There's some of that trickle down. There's one or two who it's like, it's crazy that, I've known them. My best friend, of 20 years I met was my station partner at table 52, right? And like, we were station partners, and then we lived together in my parents' house. And then we lived together with my cousin. And then, like, I introduced him to his wife. Like, you know what I mean? He was best man in my wedding. I was best man in his wedding. We've been friends for 20 years now, just because, like, we're both named Joe, and we both worked a wood-fired oven together at table 52. And we were great station partners. You know what I mean? It was the best station partner ever. I think there were 2 or 3 guys who stood up at my wedding who were station partners of mine at one point, and who became, one of them, my buddy Aaron. It's like, I'm the godfather of his daughter. You know what I mean? And we were just like, we were station partners together. Aaron and I were Tornats together. We were junior Sues together, and like at Girl to Go. And it's just like, it's wild, like how intense those bonds are, how deep those friendships go.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's still people where it's like, if we step back on the line, like Aaron and I had the opportunity, we cooked together maybe 1.5 years ago at an event. He was there helping somebody out, and I was there cooking. And like, we got on the line together, and it was like, didn't miss a beat. Like, it was the closest I felt to feeling 25 again. You know what I mean? And forever, because it was just like, we're just slanging pans, just digging. You know what I mean? I was like, this is the shit.
Yeah, I always think about that, because like, my sister's a property manager, and she's got friends from companies that she worked at previously that she formed relationships with. They'd go out to dinner, they'd hang out, and they maintain those relationships throughout their careers, even when they go to different companies. But when I've changed restaurants, it's almost like, because of our hours and because we don't get to see, it's like, I'm working 12, 14 hours a day. If our one day off that week doesn't line up, I'm never going to see you. And
right. I might not see you for 6 months.
Right. So you're like the closest people to me for 2 years. Like, I can tell you everybody on my favorite line that I ever worked that I was super close with: Ron Sue, Austin Baker, Eddie Dollinger, Michael Tyler, and me. The 5 of us held it down, entree line at Le Bernardin for it was a heady 2-3 year period. Rocked it out. All got good. We pushed each other. We challenged each other. We talked a lot of shit to each other, but we had such close bonds and relationships. And then somebody would leave. And it's like, it's like a piece of you left, and you got to get that dynamic back. But I almost never talked to that person again.
Well, yeah. And it's weird. You can't take them all with you, right? There's one that it's like, like Joe was from table 52, and my other buddy John there. You know what I mean? Those are the 2 guys who I still talk to a lot. And, I hear from my chef there every once in a while. And then like my buddy Aaron from Girl on the Goat, and my other buddy Jan there. But it's like, there's 1 or 2 each restaurant that you're kind of able to take with you.
Right.
And it's like the rest, it's like everybody spreads out. And it's like, and then it's like, I still see him. I saw one of my cooks from '𝗵𝗲 was at an event I did Monday. And now he's like a chef instructor at Elgin Community College, I think. And it was like probably haven't seen him in at least a year. But it's like, it's like instant that like, he's like, like, chef, give me a big hug. And like, you know what I mean? Seeing those people. And it's like, somebody was there. She was like, man, she's like, do you just know everybody at this event? It's like, well, I've been around.
I've worked. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been around for 20 years now, and I worked at a lot of places, and I worked with a lot of cooks. It's just like, it is a wild thing. It's a weird thing. And it's like, I will say at this point in my life, I've tried to do a better job of checking in on my people.
Right. Maintaining them, putting in the work. Yes, putting in the work for like my sous chefs who left or cooks who leave, where it's like, checking in on them before, because I always tell them like, hey, if you want to get a coffee, if you want to catch up, let me know. Like, I'm always down. You know what I mean? But if I haven't heard from them for a while, trying to bridge that gap and be like, you know what? Like, I can send them a text and be like, hey, you want to, like, how are you doing? And then, usually if I send that text, they're like, hey, I've been meaning to catch up with you. Like, could we have coffee? Could we have lunch? And you know what I mean? Make the time. Because other people have done that for me. You know what I mean? From Stephanie to Tony to, Kevin Bain to, all sorts of people who, I worked for over the years who have taken the time to like have a coffee with me, have a meal with me. And, when I needed advice or just needed to be, talked off the edge a little bit. Right. And I can honestly say, like, there are some of my like old coworkers and line mates that I keep up with. Like my friend Ron, him and another former coworker actually opened a couple, actually I think they're up to 3 or 4 in Atlanta now, and their first restaurant, Lazy Betty, has a Michelin star. And they're doing great. They've got a pizza place, they've got the fine dining place, like they're killing it. And we've kept in touch, intermittently throughout the year on cookbook stuff, on pop-ups, on, hey, you'll be in New York, all kind of stuff. And then other people, it's like I ran into one of my guys, like one of my old saucier when I was on Saute. I ran into him at the farmer's market, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like you feel that love, you still feel that camaraderie and that closeness. And there's no feeling that can replace that, because you see people when they are at their worst. Working a line with somebody is a test of character, and it shows you who that person is. Like when you're mad and angry and frustrated, do you lash out, or are you still a good person? And that tells you everything that you need to know about a person.
Are you going to lash out, or are you going to start singing Neil Diamond songs to me in my ear that no one else can hear?
Or Outcast, or, everybody's got their thing. And that's like the beauty of it, is like those people, them, who they are in their core. Like, I know you so well.
Dogs, you know what I mean? You're like, fucking dog, man. Like,
I know when you are
still like,
when you've got your back up against the wall, I know you will fight your way out, and you will not be an asshole while you're doing it. That says so much about somebody's character.
Yeah. And I know you'd lie for me in court if you had to.
Absolutely. Another cool thing about the relationships, and this is like personal relationships and work relationships, is like, how do you keep each other motivated in a restaurant? Like your coworkers in a restaurant, what are some of the ways that you and your people, you and your friends used to keep each other motivated during those busy, long, hard times of the year when you're just like getting no sleep, crazy busy at work? How do you keep each other going?
See, this is the funny thing. I feel like it's less hard to keep each other motivated during the busy times, right? Because you're just going. Like, there's no time to think about it. When you're busy all the time, you're going at a rate, right? You got shit to do. Everybody's got shit to do. We're just cranking. You know what I mean? We're working for each other. We're pushing. You're going at a speed, so I'm going to match that speed, right? When we're at pace. I think it's way, way harder to keep everybody motivated when the lulls come.
That's real.
And I think that was always the trick of it. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you keep people motivated when it slows down?
Right.
When you're not going 1,000 miles an hour, when, you know what I mean, you're running a Michelin star restaurant that's going to do 20 covers. How do you keep everybody up to like, hey, we got to be as sharp as when we're doing 120? When we're having a banging Saturday night and we got a full line. Now there's only 4 of us here.
Right.
I remember we had one where it was -40 with the wind chill in Chicago. And so like we closed 𝗵𝗲𝗳, but we had to keep cafe open because part of the lease for the building was like one restaurant had to be open.
Okay.
So I was like, shit. All right. So I was like, what are we going to do? So I was like, I didn't want to call any of the cooks in because it was too cold. So I called my chefs and I was like, hey, and one of them was my buddy Aaron from Girl on the Goat. He was working with us at the time. And so I said, hey, we're going to do managers only. I was like, I'll pick you guys up. Get everybody Ubers home. We'll bring a dishwasher in. We'll send an Uber to his house to get him. And front of the house will just be managers. And so it was like, we didn't know if we were going to do 5 people that night or whatever. I was like, well, we'll just go. We'll hang out. We'll have fun. And it'll just be like, when do you get to have 3 chefs? So it was like me, Aaron, my buddy Brian, and I think my buddy Eric Lees. So it was like 3 dudes I love hanging out with. And we just had this the little cafe 𝗵𝗲𝗳 kitchen. It was a small kitchen. So we just had this little kitchen. Front of the house manager, she was like, what are we going to do tonight? I'm like, I don't know if we're going to be busy or not, or what's going to happen, or if we're going to do anyone. I go, but what we are going to do is I was like, turn the music up. I was like, and you're going to make everyone Aperol spritz. And we're going to pretend like we are at the beach today. And we're going to drink Aperol spritz, and we're going to cook pasta. And we're going to see what happens. We ended up getting crushed because we were the only restaurant that was open. Everybody else had closed. So it was... I think we started the day with 10 covers. We ended up doing like 80 or 90 people, and like 70 of them were all industry people. Cause it was like, I put up a picture or something like, oh, like we're in here.
And they're like, oh great. I know where I can grab food.
Oh, you're open. We're coming. You know what I mean? So it was like everybody's restaurants who closed all came in at 8 that night. It was like one of the funnest nights of my life. And it was just like, being stupid. Like we just had fun. You know what I mean? I think like those are the days where it's like finding like, all right, like what little, like we used to do, like on really slow days, we would do like bet on just weird things. We'd be like, all right, first take it out of the printer. What do you think it's going to be?
What's the order going to be?
What's the first dish out of the printer? You know what I mean? I'd take like whatever, a $50 bill or something, and I'd tuck it into the pass. And I'd be like, first dish out of the printer, let's go tonight. And, you know, everybody would put a guess. Or we do over under on covers, you know, Price is Right style. Or, you know what I mean? You got to guess the covers.
Closest without going over.
Closest without going over on covers would be another bet we'd roll. Once online gambling became a thing, we would do Sunday parlays where we'd bet like a crazy, like take $10 and bet like a 7-leg parlay.
Oh my God.
And then if we won it, you know what I mean? We'd split it. We never won, obviously.
Of course. But if you had, you'd be all in the reward together. See, we used to do like, I remember when I was working at 𝗵𝗲𝗳, like 11 Madison, it had become like more widely known that they would put a quote on the pass every day. And so we're like, you know what? That's a great idea. So during the busy season, it's like you almost need something to distract you because you're just balls to the wall every day for a 5-month stretch. Everybody's working 6 days. So it could be hard to kind of like, you're performing at a high level. The expectations are high. So it would be fun to kind of like distract people a little bit. So Mike Tyler would like put a quote up on the inside of the stainless steel behind where our cook surface was. And he'd put the blue tape around it, or he'd put a photo up on the wall or something, just so that we all had a touch point when you go from cooking at the stove to like grabbing your micros or your crunchies or whatever to finish your dish. You like turn around and you see that thing. You see that one thing and it makes you smile, and then you turn back to the stove and you keep going. And then during prep time, another thing we used to do, and I think this was Austin's kind of like main thing, Austin and Eddie, they would be like, hey, shout down the line, hey, 𝗏𝗵𝗲, give me 5 derivatives of XYZ mother sauce. And we would play like culinary trivia. What are the phenherbs? What are the, you know, it's like we would play like random culinary trivia. My favorite one that I stumped several people throughout my career with, in Rapunzel, what was the vegetable that led to them giving up their daughter?
No idea.
Radishes. The old witch was growing radishes in her garden.
I would have never got that one. I wish we could say like, you know, sometimes we would have very culinary based talks. You know what I mean? To be like, where would you work if you weren't working here now? Where's one place you want to eat?
Yeah.
One of my favorite was like, what's your favorite 3 meals you ever had? But like when it was like really bad and you really needed to get out of it, we would play this game where it was like, tell us a story you've never told anyone. Like this was like OG walk-in confessions. And it didn't have to be like something like salacious. It'd be like one time in 5th grade, like I peed my pants and I lied about it. And I've never told anyone about it. And it would be like, it'd be hilarious because it'd be like random shit like that. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like my sister got blamed for this when we were 6. And like, I have never come forward that like I actually broke that. Like I've still never told my parents this day or whatever. And people would tell stories like that. It was so like, I mean, we would just be cracking out, you know, on the line, dying, just like telling these stupid stories. But it just got you through.
Our last part of the day, Joe, I want to do a little bit of Valentine's Day turn and burn.
Oh.
How do you feel about that?
A little teasy and beasy.
I have some either ors for you, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. For Valentine's Day, if you weren't working, going out for a romantic dinner or spending a special night at home?
At home.
Okay.
Without for my kids home.
Take working kids out of it.
Yeah. At home.
Okay, at home. I'm the same way. I think I'd rather be at home. If you were cooking, would you rather cook with that special someone or cook for that special someone?
For.
Instead of having them in the kitchen with you?
For. Are you cooking with? You got sous chef Steven over there?
I mean, man knows his way around the kitchen, so it's not like I used to be super I can't work with people at home in the kitchen, but I'm starting to see the
you say
beauty and the fun in
people
it.
at home like there's somebody else there besides Steven. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to name his name to protect his identity.
I used to just be super closed off about anybody being in the kitchen with me at home. Like, no, I got this. Like, please stay away.
It's shocking to hear.
But recently I've really started to see like how much fun it is to cook with my husband. It's actually more fun than I think I realized before. So I think I would cook with instead of just cooking for. I want all parties to be equally culpable here. If you're out at dinner on Valentine's Day, do you order desserts to share or separate?
Always to share. I'm also though like and I feel like it's so rarely I get to go out. We're ordering all the desserts.
Okay.
Like, don't tell me you're full. Don't want to hear it. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. We're ordering all of the desserts. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many. If there's 2 of us, if there's 6 of us, whatever. Like, send it.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. Okay.
And I'll be like, I know you thought you heard me say some of it. I want all of it.
The whole dessert menu. Okay, so that brings me to my next one. If you could only choose one, would it be chocolate souffle or chocolate lava cake? These are 2 Valentine staples. Which is yours?
This is my question, though. Is there a sauce for the souffle?
Okay, classic creme anglaise. Crack the top, pour the creme anglaise into the center of the souffle, traditional style.
Also would wildly depend on where I'm at. You know what I mean? If I at, you know what I mean?
Okay, assume they're both going to be executed well.
A neighborhood restaurant on the south side, I'm going to go lava cake. I'm not trusted. You know what I mean? If somebody's decided they're going to throw a souffle on the menu. I've had a lava cake 6 blocks from my house. It's delicious. It slaps, dude. Scoop of vanilla ice cream on that bad boy. Let's go. I don't know their souffle game up at Ken's, but, maybe it's all right.
Okay, well, just assume that they're both going to be done well. Which is your cup of tea?
They're both be done to the highest regard. I think like the souffle is more special to me. You know what I mean? Because it's something you don't see very often anymore. And I think like when you have a really good souffle is like mind blowing. You know what I mean? I think like texturally, temperature wise, all of those things. I think it's just, you know what I mean? It's a classic for a reason. It's a perfect, dessert for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably go souffle. I have to assume you're going souffle.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah.
𝗔𝗵𝗲𝗳𝗀 Adrienne.
Adrienne, thank you.
Adrienne.
Adrienne. Okay, and final question. Valentine's Day gift, flowers or chocolate?
Always flowers. Always flowers.
You don't like the Walgreens box of Russell Stover assorted chocolates?
I mean, one, there's always chocolate in my house, I would say. I always have a little chocolate stash going. Flowers. I think flowers are the best. Flowers is one of those things. I like buying flowers. Like even, you go to a farmer's market and they have awesome flowers. Like it's the best. It's such, you know what I mean? It's so frivolous and silly. And I think that's why it's nice.
Yeah. I love
flowers.
What
about you? Flowers or chocolates?
Flowers, 100%. Chocolates would sit there for a year and I might nibble 1 or 2 of them. Flowers, I will look at and smile throughout the day. And when I think about them, I will smile. I love flowers.
Now, if you want to send me chocolates, I would
I'm
be
not
delighted.
sending you anything.
I would be delighted. Why not? That's a nice thought.
I might send Hillary some flowers, but I'm not sending you a damn thing.
No, send her some chocolates so I can eat them all. It'll be great.
I love it. Joe, well, happy Valentine's Day to you and yours. I hope you guys have a great service this weekend.
Age, happy Valentine's Day to you. I hope it is filled with all the love and none of the 2 tops.
Well, happy Valentine's Day. That is it for this episode of The Chef's Cut. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, especially if you're watching us on YouTube, where you can find full-length episodes of the show. And be sure to follow us at The Chef's Cut Pod on IG. For Joe Flam, I'm Adrienne Cheatham, and this has been The Chef's Cut, Life Beyond the Pass.